evaluating Oklahoma's defense, which there were other circumstances a year ago, guys, as to why Oklahoma didn't make the playoff, and that was justifiable, and it was right in my judgment. But one thing that, as we started talking on that Selection Sunday about looking at Penn State or, even looking at USC with the 3 losses, why not Oklahoma? And it was more last year than Ohio State, although that was the major factor, that and the loss to Houston. But the other factor was they said that day they didn't think Oklahoma's defense was championship caliber. And I think, the admission that is part of the or not admission, that makes it sound like there's something wrong. The revelation or revealing the fact that they are evaluating things in a football context like that, particularly as it pertains to a team that, in my judgment, has far and away the best offense in the country, but leaves something to be desired and in many games on defense. Now, they were terrific against Ohio State, but in some other games this year they have been less than terrific. So I thought that was the most compelling thing.
Last one for me, RD, and thanks for your time at this hour here on Freddie and Fitz here on ESPN Radio. Describe how big Notre Dame, Miami, and also for a 2-loss team that has a shot. It's a long shot, but they have a shot in Auburn and UGA coming up this weekend. How big are these games?
Gargantuan. One, I think it's a must-win for Notre Dame if it wants to be in the playoff. For Miami, I think surprisingly maybe a little less so. Now, they may still be vulnerable, but Miami would still have the opportunity to go to the ACC championship game, play Clemson, and if the Canes were to win that game, I think they would still be a viable contender. A Notre Dame loss here really puts them in a precarious situation. Auburn may be a long shot, I guess, but if you look at the entire body of the work at the end of the season, and that would happen to include 2 wins over Georgia and a win over Alabama, and what would that be, a 4-week span? And then you factor in one little stumble at LSU and a loss to Clemson, which was one possession, but if you're going to evaluate the loss to LSU, then you have to say the Clemson game didn't appear to be a one-possession game. That was not nearly as close as the score indicated, as they like to say. However, it's still that, and they get some credit for keeping it close. I would find it hard to leave Auburn out if they were able to win those 3 games in that short a period of time. I think that I won't go so far as to say Auburn controls its destiny or controls its path, but I would say they're awfully close to it, and they certainly have a better handle on that than any other 2-loss team for sure.
He's been known to pick a song or two and to pick you up when you feel good. That's our man Reese Davis from College Game Day and the College Football Playoff Rankings each and every Tuesday. He's one of our favorite people. Great stuff from him joining us on Freddie and Fitz. Reese, always a pleasure, my friend. Can't wait to see you Saturday on College Game Day as well, bud.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a great one. See you later.
You too, my friend. By the College Game, they will be down in Miami. They'll get a chance to be a part of all the festivities involving number 3 Notre Dame and number 7 Miami. Follow him on Twitter, ESPN_Reese Davis. Talking about the College Football Playoff Rankings, courtesy of Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. And this is the one thing that I've always wanted, but I've gotten more in than I could have ever expected the College Football Playoff Rankings, because all of a sudden I knew that a lot of people have a lot of regret and remorse for not doing this sooner. Since we can't go back in time, now we have this. It has been a complete boom and boon to college football.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and as you and I talked about last night, Freddie, I think that the playoff and adding 2 more spots has had a huge impact in growing the popularity of the great game of college football. As the NFL takes a dip in ratings, college football is rising in ratings. And I think a big part of it is because more teams have a shot, which means more fan bases have a chance. I mean, if you're sitting there from, 10 on up right now, maybe even a little bit further back, Freddie, you still have a chance. I mean, Auburn, as a 2-loss team, has a shot. So, I think the college football playoff has, dramatically helped increase the popularity of college football. And if you have chaos this year where you have 2 teams from one conference and Notre Dame get in, whether it's the ACC or the SEC and Notre Dame, and 3 Power Fives are left out, We're going to 8 in a hurry.
We're not going to go to 8 in a hurry because of the contract, and they're not going to amend that contract. And I still don't believe that that's going to be as much of a slam dunk, even though, plenty of teams and coaches want it, because there's always going to be somebody complaining if you have 8 teams. You're going to have more people complaining outside of 4 teams. That may not be a bad thing when it's all said and done for the college football playoff. Your thoughts on the rankings, whether it's Notre Dame, Alabama, TCU, whatever you got to say, we want to hear it from you at 888-729-3776. Your thoughts on the rankings, 888-SAY ESPN. Be heard next on ESPN Radio.
I'm Charlie Blackman, and I'd like to thank our troops who protect this country and provide our freedom. I'd like to give a special thanks to all the men and women out there who have dedicated their lives to our safety as a country. Thank you for all that you do to keep America free.
Football Sunday on ESPN Radio. The Packers have dropped 3 straight and 2 without Aaron Rodgers. Brett Hundley showed signs of promise Monday night, but now they head to Soldier Field as underdogs for the first time in 9 years when they face the Bears.
Take off the training wheels. Let this kid play. Live in your hopes, not in your fears.
Football Sunday. The Packers and Bears.
We're working our way towards kickoff.
Noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
This is Larry in Missouri, previously on the Paul Feinbaum Show.
And Buddy Martin joins us.
10 coaching changes at Florida. And by the way, all but 2 of them are over offense, seems like. This is how I think they could go and kind of how I think they would go. Without question, moving to the top slide, Scott Frost. I've read too many things about him that really impressed me, especially his fun. If you notice, Scott Strickland emphasized the word fun in the press conference. This guy knows how to have fun with his players. They'll like him, respect him. Plus, he's got a remarkable resume of people he's played for. Check this out. How's his name? Bill Walsh, Tom Osborne, Bill Parcells, Mike Tomlin, and John Gruden. And by the way, one of the guys who's highest on him is Tony Dungy. I'd say it's a pretty good resume and a pretty good list of references right there.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and on the SEC Network.
Some of the most severe sanctions in the NFL's history resulted from Bounty Gate.
Everyone's like, oh yeah, they're just dirty players. That's why they won the Super Bowl and all this stuff.
In the latest sit-down with Ryan Russillo, we get the inside story on Bounty Gate from former Saint Jonathan Vilma.
I put $5,000 of my own money to start the season. I get paid for violence.
Bounty Gate, tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern on the Ryan Russillo Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Mike and Mike.
Good morning. We are back in better than ever.
Tomorrow morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
See, very intrigued by the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
You're right on with Tyson here, because up until the end of his career, he didn't fight anyone.
Yes, he didn't fight anybody, and then he became a phenomenon anyways, because he was crazy, because he was young, and because his style was impetuous. His defense was impregnable. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com. Dan Le Batard.
Does Trey Wingo sound like a 3-count chicken wing appetizer dish at a Mexican restaurant run by white people?
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Mike and Mike.
Why did the Patriots trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers yesterday?
Going back to the spring, the Patriots made attempts to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo to keep him in New England, and they were unable to do so. And they continued to try, and they continued not to be able to get something done. It became apparent after a certain amount of time that they were not going to be able to re-sign him, that obviously the opportunities and money were going to be too great on the market.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
I love sports. I just wish they could be with me always. They say you don't choose the app chooses you. It is everything I could ever want in a sports companion. It can stream the games and shows that I love, and it's there whenever I need it. I never thought I could find an app that loves sports as much as I do. Until now.
Download the ESPN app to stream ESPN Radio and all the ESPN networks now.
A Mike and Mike throwback moment.
Gola can sing.
He's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice.
Okay. Santa Claus is coming to town. Mike and Mike.
That was genuinely outstanding.
Wow.
Oh, that was phenomenal.
I told you these guys are good.
They are unbelievable. You were good.
I was really nervous there, though.
Hashtag MM Say Thanks. Presented by Amazon Music Unlimited. ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Jim Baskell. Sadness for Major League Baseball today. Roy Halladay, a two-time Cy Young Award winner who pitched a perfect game and playoff no-hitter, died when his private plane crashed into the Gulf of Mexico. He was one of 7 pitchers to throw at least 2 no-hitters, one of 5 in league history with multiple Cy Youngs and multiple no-hitters, had 67 career complete games. Halladay was an amateur pilot who had posted often on social media about small planes. He passed away at the age of 40. Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson held their top spots in the top 4 of the college football playoff rankings. Unbeaten Miami moved up 3 spots to number 7 prior to their matchup Saturday night with the Fighting Irish. Head coach Mark Richt on that matchup.
We like it when we're competing in games like this late in the year that are that meaningful. And it's what you hope for, it's what you work toward, and it just so happens this Saturday night is going to be very meaningful to both teams.
Oklahoma stays at 5, TCU moves up to 6, and it's those two matching up as well on Saturday night. ESPN's Jeff Goodman reporting 3 UCLA men's basketball players, including LiAngelo Ball, the younger brother of Lonzo, arrested in China on shoplifting charges. This comes just days before Friday's season-opening game against Georgia Tech. Mark Slabaugh reporting a federal grand jury has indicted 4 college basketball coaches who are among the 10 arrested in September in connection with a bribery scheme. They include Chuck Person, formerly of Book Richardson of Arizona, Tony Bland of Southern Cal, and Lamont Evans of Oklahoma State, all facing multiple federal charges. The Suns have traded guard Eric Bledsoe of to the Bucks for Greg Monroe and 2 draft picks, including a 2018 first-rounder. On the court, the Sixers seeking their first 5-game win streak since the 11-12 season, up at Salt Lake City 98-86, and doing so without Joel Embiid, who's getting the night off. The Cavs avoid a 6 loss in 7 games, 124-119. Kevin Love, 32 points, 16 rebounds. LeBron adds 30. And the Clippers fall in San Antonio 120-107. LaMarcus Aldridge at 25 for the winners.
College football on ESPN Radio. The North Carolina Tar Heels travel to Pittsburgh to face the Pitt Panthers. Coverage begins Thursday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Who's In? Presented by the 2018 Ford F-150.
Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80, proudly brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about the college football rankings. You heard the experts say this. You heard Kirby Holcutt, the committee chairman, the AD for Texas Tech, say that. Now Freddie and Ian want to hear what you have to say. Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Oklahoma, 1 through 5, but the 2 buzz teams, without any question. Number 8, Wisconsin, lack of strength of schedule, but they're at number 8 at 9-0. And Auburn can really shake things up at number 10 with Georgia and Alabama in the coming weeks. 888 say ESPN, 888-729-3776. Anthony in Florida, what you got, boss?
What's up, my dudes?
Everything's good, Anthony. What's up with you?
Hey, I'm good down here. First of all, rest in peace, Roy Halladay.
Amen.
Second of all, telling you now, Freddie and Ian, my Dallas Cowboys, if Ezekiel doesn't get suspended, and my Hurricanes going to be champions this year. Okay? That brings me to the third point. Number seven. Okay, I'm going to go about the people's post down here. The people are saying, okay, I know Clemson's national champions, but they lost to such and such, and we beat them. You know what I'm saying? I don't care, because we got to have an ACC championship game. They don't understand football. Okay? So let them stay right there after we pound Notre Dame, right, and move up into the top 4, right? Right? going to be good. Don't let Clemson lose. Please don't let them lose before we play them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Be careful what you wish for, my friend. But, man, that's fantastic because, look, Freddie, I mean, Oklahoma or TCU, one of them is dropping, right? They're eliminated this weekend. They play each other. They're 5-6, right ahead of my man's Canes at number 7. And then if they knock off Notre Dame, guess what? Hey, do the math. You're right there. So, and then you have the ACC championship game. Yeah, and this is the most amazing part to me about Miami. When you say this out loud, we're talking about the U, right? They have never, let this sink in, folks. Miami Hurricanes have never played in the ACC title game.
Well, they haven't been good enough and consistent enough to do such a thing. So that should not be a surprise, honestly.
But when you say it out loud, right? I mean, that's the U. I mean, and they haven't been the U for a long time. But Mark Richt coming back to his alma mater, I mean, he has brought back an attitude. I love the turnover chain. You know, when you get a turnover, you're wearing the chain, partner.
Yep.
And the players love it. They embrace it. And they're playing with an attitude that we haven't seen in a long, long time. And Rick has brought back the Michael Irvins, you know, and the Jonathan Vilmas, and you know, all of these boy dog warriors that help make the U the U. But this weekend, you're getting a really, really stout Notre Dame squad.
Because they will run the football, and they do not care what you're doing.
Yep. And Miami, what's the one thing they can't do very well?
Well, they have trouble stopping the run.
That's it.
Yeah, they get after the quarterback, and Rozier can't have 3 interceptions like he did last week. Got away with it versus Virginia Tech. If you throw 3 picks this week, my friend, you will not get away with it against Notre Dame. Ira in Texas, what do you got to say about the college football playoff rankings, my friend?
Hey, what's happening, man? What are the odds that Catholics versus convicts is on my TV right now while we're talking about all this? But anyhow, man, make a long story short, you just got to keep winning. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves, the pressure y'all put on them kids from Wisconsin. They're up there teeth chattering right now. They're fucking like that, you know? Then, and even Miami. If Notre Dame goes out there and lays an egg, we're not going to be talking about them. We're going to be talking about, what's his name, Chip Kelly Jr., the coach from Notre Dame. We're going to be talking about him getting out of Dodge. So let's just take it week by week. You guys know what happens in the kitchen because y'all know the chefs. But let everybody getting served on the tables, you know, let them down easy a little bit. It's going to be all right.
You know what, Ira, Texas, that's one of my favorite phone calls, number one. Number two, I'm telling you right now, any pressure that's being put on the kids from Wisconsin or the kids from Miami, if any pressure is coming from us, it is nowhere near the pressure that they're going to put on themselves because they understand exactly how much people are paying attention to them. But remember this, they're not interested in trying to prove people wrong. You keep winning, it doesn't matter what kind of pressure outside forces may be putting on your football team.
Yeah, and I loved catching up with Jalen Hurts on the podcast to do with Kirk Herbstreit a few weeks ago because we talked about that very thing in pressure, and he said, pressure, you know, turns coal into a diamond, and it's all about how you handle it. And to me, the biggest pressure I have, I put on the guy in the mirror. That's all it is. I mean, the outside noise, it doesn't affect us.
And by the way,
I'm looking at the guy in the mirror. That's all I answer to. And I thought it was a great answer from Jalen Hurts.
And by the way, if you don't want that kind of pressure, play FCS Division II or Division III.
Yeah, there you go.
You don't have to worry about any of that. Believe me, these young men, college football is as close to a professional sport than it's ever been. They understand that pressure, and if they don't understand it, they're going to get it figured out for them really, really quickly, no matter where they are in the college football playoff rankings, although that's still one of my favorite phone calls of all time from Ira in Texas saying, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You know,
all that pressure on these kids from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Ira, as Esmeralda Bordoff would say, we're sorry. No, we're not sorry. Let's put it that way. Jerry in Washington, what do you have to say about the college football playoff rankings on Freddie and Fitz?
Hey, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on my Washington Huskies up here in the Northwest. What's your thoughts on these boys up here?
Dangerous, and I'll tell you why, because right now they're number 9 in the rankings. They have Stanford, Utah, and Washington State. So they don't have an easy schedule. On the road at Stanford, home versus Utah. They should win that game, but they're going to be bruised up a little bit. Then they get the Apple Cup at home versus Washington State. Anything could go from a chaotic standpoint, but if things break right just a little bit for Washington, Ian, they run the table. They win the Pac-12 championship game. they're not out of this in terms of just staying on the outside looking in, especially like you mentioned. Still a lot of football to be played in the month of November, and Washington can really strike and maybe find themselves in the college football playoffs for the second straight year.
You are huge Washington State fans. You want them to win out until you meet them in the Apple Cup. You are huge USC fans.
True.
You want them to win out until you meet them potentially in the Pac-12 title game. I just had Washington in person in some of the worst conditions that I've been in 9 years as a field analyst, sideline reporter. 35 degrees, rainy, wind coming off the lake. And Chris Peterson, head coach of Washington, told me at halftime, Freddie, forget throwing the football. We need to run the ball effectively in the second half. You know what they did?
Ran the ball
effectively with 3 different backs in the second half.
Well, you talked about Mark Richt, what he's done with his alma mater. Chris Peterson has gotten this going a lot sooner than Washington than anybody could have. Seriously.
No doubt. I mean, it's been a steady climb. Yep. Getting better every single season. And when Jake Browning, it doesn't matter. Brett Favre couldn't have thrown in that weather on Saturday night. I mean, it was windy. It was rain.
He would have tried, though.
Yeah, you're right. He'd been audibly, kill. We're going deep, baby. Hell with it.
Yeah, Red 59 Razor. Seattle.
But Myles Gaskin and company, man, they can tote it. But yet Washington needs a lot of attrition in front of them.
True.
And you need, if you're a Washington Huskies fan, you need Washington State to continue to win, and you want USC to continue to win to bolster that strength of schedule, because your non-conference stinks.
Yeah, but based on previous results in previous years, it's more than likely that if they do what they're supposed to, that help is going to come for Washington. And the next thing you know, they could be one of those 4 teams. One more from Doug in Arizona. Doug, we have to say about the playoff rankings, my friend.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, this is a very unpopular opinion, and I know with all the analytics we have, it just doesn't really make sense. But I think one of the big things is you just need to go back to the undefeateds. I mean, with all the upsets we see in college football, and to have 4 teams that are undefeated and not have all 4 at least in the top 5, it kind of blows my mind. Just like with who you see losing week in and week out, and to see those guys just not do that at all.
To your point, because Wisconsin's resume is going to count against them. In Miami, they weren't playing anybody great shakes early on until they played Virginia Tech. They played Bethune-Cookman. Florida State, that game got canceled. They got pushed down to later on. They only beat them by 4. They beat Duke. They beat Toledo. They beat Georgia Tech by 1. They beat Syracuse barely by 8, and they beat North Carolina barely by 5. So I give them credit for being undefeated. But they have not been world beaters until they beat Virginia Tech. Yeah, they're 2 impressive wins. Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. And Georgia Tech, they needed some luck down the stretch to win that ball game at home versus Georgia Tech. And the only other undefeated team outside of Georgia, Alabama, Wisconsin, and Miami is Central Florida. And unless everybody completely falls down in front of them twice, right, and everybody's not going to do that once, they're going to be playing in a New Year's Day 6 Bowl, but they have no chance of making the college football playoff as an undefeated team. They're Western Michigan this year.
This is about the best 4 teams in college football. We are not handing out participation trophies just because you're undefeated.
And you shouldn't.
And that's the purpose of the committee, and they better stick to it, because last year I thought they got away from it. Yeah. But Clemson, in the month of September alone, they beat 3 top 15 teams. 3. And that had never been done in college football. You going to tell me Miami has that resume?
Right.
Wisconsin has that resume?
I mean, I'm glad that Miami is back in the national consciousness, because to me, college football is better when that team is around and competing for championships. But the truth is, their schedule was a little light until they wiped the floor of Virginia Tech. And then they got to do it again when they play Notre Dame this week. We're going to wait and see exactly what happens with that. If you did not get through on the phone, you can always weigh in on Twitter at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at Coleman ESPN, at Ian Fitz ESPN, and at Freddie and Fitz. And by the way, if your football obsession has strained a relationship, you need 1-800-Flowers.com. For a limited time, 1-800-Flowers is offering up to 40% off best-selling bouquets and gifts, perfect for birthdays and anniversaries. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. More on this will come your way about the college football playoff rankings in about 30 minutes right here on Freddie and Fitz, presented by Progressive Insurance. Boy, Roy Doc Halladay, gone too soon. This is ESPN Radio.
The NFL.
I wouldn't say that they quit on McAdoo. I think they kind of tuned him out. The difference is the way that you continue to get paid in this game is by you making plays.
ESPN Radio.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
54-yard touchdown pass.
This is Pat Narduzzi, head football coach of the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Hi, this is Larry Fedora, head football coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
This is college football
on ESPN Radio.
Let's go. We came to eat. We came to eat.
Do you believe that you can win this fight tonight? The North Carolina Tar Heels travel to Pittsburgh to face the Pitt Panthers. Coverage begins Thursday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Presented by the 2018 Ford F-150.
Football Sunday on ESPN Radio. The Packers have dropped 3 straight and 2 without Aaron Rodgers. Brett Hundley showed signs of promise Monday night, but now they head to Soldier Field as underdogs for the first time in 9 years when they face the Bears.
Take off the training wheels. Let this kid play. Live in your hopes, not in your fears.
Football Sunday. The Packers and Bears.
We're working our way towards kickoff.
Noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
This is Jerome from Birmingham, previously from the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Bobo is up next. Bobo, go right ahead.
What is Butch Jones' future as a head coach?
Butch Jones' future as a head coach, Bobo, is the same with a win or a loss. He has no future. He is going to be replaced. At what point in time, I have no earthly idea. I think it's pretty obvious that John Curry made a mistake.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and on the SEC Network.
Russillo!
McShay with Will Kane. Okay, Bama, Ohio State, neutral site.
Bama.
Neutral site, Georgia, Clemson.
Georgia.
Notre Dame, Penn State.
Notre Dame. Tough one, though.
Penn State.
Penn State. Wisconsin, Miami in Fort Lauderdale, and the kids have been there a long time.
Long time? I didn't think they'd have sunburn.
Ryan Russillo. Check him out weekdays at 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Wherever you are, we are. Your radio, your phone, your computer. This is ESPN Radio.
Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80, as well as the ESPN app. And I was getting ready to prepare to come in today, doing preparation at home, and I got a text from my producer, Stas Yankee, saying, we may have a Roy Halladay situation. And I texted him back, what do you mean? And then he mentioned about a plane crash in which was registered to his name, the plane, involved Roy Doc Halladay. And I said, if there was only one person on that plane, unfortunately, we may be talking about this more and more. And that's exactly what happened. Roy Halladay passing away at the age of 40 in a one-person plane crash off the Gulf Coast of Florida on Tuesday afternoon.
We recovered one body. It was a 2-passenger plane, but I can confirm there's only one body involved. And it's sad to say it's a friend of ours. It's Roy Halladay. Many know Roy as a Cy Young winner, future Hall of Famer, one of the best pitchers ever pitched in the game of baseball. We know Roy as a person, as a caring husband who loved his wife Brandy. He loved his 2 boys tremendously. He coached their baseball teams. I can tell you when he spoke of his family, he spoke with pride. And I can tell you, Brandy and the boys and the entire family, we are so sad for your loss.
And that is the police chief in their hometown where they live now in South Florida. And, you know, as a dad, I can't imagine leaving behind my 2 little girls and my bride. I mean, I can't even fathom. And, Michael Young, who played with, Roy Halladay, and they retired basically together, sent out this tweet. The great Michael Young, who played, most of his career with the Texas Rangers and then went to, the Phillies and then back to his hometown of the Dodgers, a career 300 hitter. He sent this out earlier, quote, "I'll never forget August of 2013. Doc and I were 2 months away from retirement. He was hurt, clearly hurt, still pitching though. One day in Wrigley, he was throwing 83. And he was all over the place. And I go to the mound and I say, hey, you okay? And he said, everything hurts. But he refused to come out of the game. He was always fighting. The consummate pro. Anytime you wanted to talk to Roy Halladay, before a game, when I was, covering the Rangers, Freddie, I mean, he would always, whenever, the Blue Jays came to town, he would always give you time to talk. One of the nicest guys and just a fierce competitor. And baseball lost a future Hall of Famer, multiple no-nos, a perfect game, two-time Cy Young winner, and just as Michael Young described, just an absolute warrior. And, thoughts and prayers go out to his bride and his two kids because, he just got his pilot's license. Isn't that correct, Freddie? Recently.
Yeah, he just got the plane not even a month ago.
Oh.
Just bought the plane, the first 2018 model of the plane in which he lost his life in. He just got it in October. He also said, I've been dreaming about flying since I was a boy, but was only able to become a pilot once I retired from baseball. Not only
all the hours it takes.
Not only is it the safest and easiest aircraft I've ever flown, it is hands down the most fun. His dad is also a pilot, and he talked about how much he really loved flying and having a chance to do that. And to your point in terms of leaving people behind, I can't even imagine what that is like for the Halladay family. And Tim Kirkchin, a man who knows and has forgotten more about Major League Baseball and baseball itself than just about anybody on the planet, he told us how he's going to remember Roy Halladay, and it's heartbreaking, but a great tribute by Tim Kirkchin about Roy Halladay.
Well, I'll remember him as a great pitcher and a future Hall of Famer, and I'll remember him as one of the hardest working players I've ever been around. 10 years ago, I walked into the Blue Jays clubhouse 3.5 hours before a game. Greg Zahn, one of the catchers, was in there, and I asked where Roy Halladay was, and he said, he's over there, he said. Zahn said, I got here at 1:30 in the afternoon, and he was in a pool of sweat when I got here. That's how hard Halladay always worked, and that hard work got him 203 wins and a .659 winning percentage. He won 2 Cy Youngs, and in 2010, he threw a perfect game, and then in the postseason, he threw a no-hitter, joining Don Larson as the only 2 pitchers ever to throw a no-hitter or a perfect game in the postseason. And after that 2010 season, he had a replica Cy Young Award made for his catcher, Carlos Ruiz. And that's who Roy Halladay is, a great pitcher and an even better teammate.
Had 5 seasons of at least 200 strikeouts and 40 or fewer walks. No other pitcher in baseball history has more than 3. But you heard so many people talk about the person, the man, a lot more than the guy that was a dude just about every time, Ian, that he took the ball, went on the mound, and went out there to battle for his teammates.
Oh, man, rest in peace and prayers to his bride and his children. Again, as a father of 2, I can't imagine, I can't even fathom. You know how much I hate to fly, Freddie. I mean, I have a tremendous fear of flying, and I fly every weekend during football season. It leaves me speechless. It really does. When I saw this story, thoughts went immediately to his family, and then friends and teammates like the great Michael Young, because the guy was just a remarkable human being, one heck of a baseball player, and Cooperstown awaits him. But again, prayers to his bride and kids, because I can't imagine how you handle that.
Yeah, Cole Hamels, who played with him with the Texas Rangers, knew him extremely, extremely well. It could not have been easy for him to talk about why Roy Halladay was so good on the mound when he was thinking more about the man.
He was a man of few words, but you just sat back and you just watched him, and you watched what he did. His work ethic was second to none. I mean, you couldn't beat him to the ballpark. And if you did, you were going to lose from there on out. And that was so impressive to see. I think it's left a lasting impression, with the Phillies and the organization. And I know with those guys, that are here today and in the minor leagues, he definitely set the bar.
There are going to be plenty of people in the coming days that are going to talk about him and the influence that he had. And he wasn't worried about that. He just wanted to do things right and enjoy his life. Roy Halladay passing away in a one-person plane crash at the age of only 40 years of age. Our condolences from Freddie and Fitz and our staff to the Halladay family, including his wife and his children and the rest of his family members. Rest in peace, Roy Halladay. Rest in peace.
The NBA on ESPN Radio.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are the best team in the Eastern Conference because they have the best player in the world. They need to get their act together, but he's the one guy that you can't sweat until April, May, and June.
And always on the ESPN app.
The North Carolina Tar Heels travel to Pittsburgh to face the Pitt Panthers. Coverage begins Thursday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Presented by the 2018 Ford F-150.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
The Texans were in a position where it looked like they had a chance to go to the playoffs, and now they're looking terrible, and it's because of their quarterback. And so, there is a guy who is available to make the team better at quarterback. Problem is, the gentleman's name is Colin Kaepernick, and as many of you may have heard, Bob McNair got himself into a little bit of a stink over something he said about inmates in prison, and there is this collusion grievance that is out there. And, oh, by the way, they're trying to get Bob McNair's phone stuff, and whoo, boy, imagine being Bob McNair right now. You need a quarterback. There is literally no argument left that there's any quarterback out there that is better than Colin Kaepernick. Oh, by the way, your team has also adjusted his offense to fit Deshaun Watson in such a way that it is very difficult for you to make the argument that Kaepernick does not fit what it is that you are doing.
Can't hear all 3 hours of The Right Time? Check them out anytime on demand on the ESPN app.
This is ESPN Radio.
Oye, amigo, it is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Roy, was Stugat supposed to read something there? Because he was searching, he was rummaging through the garbage can. What he didn't throw away is what he was wearing me out with, which is, hey, Dan, I'm 24-21-1 this year against the spread in the NFL.
I found it.
Dug up chicken shreds from 4 months ago from the bottom of that garbage can.
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNradio.com.
Go ahead and update the polls.
Enough with the name changes, Diddy. Agree or disagree? Is the turnover chain the best thing in sport? Does Andy Reid's play sheet look like a Waffle House menu?
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Mike and Mike.
I tried to go trick-or-treating. I told my daughter, I said, Dylan, 4 o'clock trade deadline, 4:01, we're out the door. We're going to be ringing doorbells. We need a lot of candy. And I'm about to leave, and all of a sudden I get a call that the A.J. McCarron Browns trade was almost near, and I'm on the phone. I'm taking her trick-or-treating. This went on for about 2 hours. So the Cleveland Browns marred my Halloween trick-or-treat experience with my daughter. I'm still angry to this day.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
I know you love the Obamas. I know you love Jim Harbaugh. I know you love Michigan football. Another thing I know you love, Jalen Rose, adult beverages. I've got some adult beverage news here. They've done some research, and I found this kind of shocking. In the last year, wine and beer sales have been slipping a little dramatically. However, hard liquor sales are going in the other direction. I have a lot of theories as to why this may be the case. I think this is a health thing. I think that there are healthier options in hard liquor than there are in both wine and beer. Less calories, less sugar. Options in hard liquor. What do you think of that theory?
Get straight to it. You alluded to it. The bottom line is this: 12 ounces of beer or a shot of liquor.
Download and subscribe to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I love sports. I just wish they could be with me always. They say you don't choose the app chooses you. It is everything I could ever want in a sports companion. It can stream the games and shows that I love, and it's there whenever I need it. I never thought I could find an app that loves sports as much as I do. Until now.
Download the ESPN app to stream ESPN Radio and all the ESPN networks now.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Jim Bass. Well, sadness from baseball today. Roy Halladay, a two-time Cy Young winner who pitched a perfect game in a playoff no-hitter, died when his private plane crashed into the Gulf of Mexico. Former teammate Cole Hamels.
He was a man of few words, but you just sat back and you just watched him, and you watched what he did. His work ethic was second to none. I mean, you couldn't beat him to the ballpark. And if you did, you were going to lose from there on out. And that was so impressive to see. I think it's left a lasting impression, with the Phillies and the organization, and I know with those guys, that are here today and in the minor leagues. He definitely set the bar.
Halladay pitched part of 16 Major League seasons with the Blue Jays and Phillies, won 203 games, was an 8-time All-Star, one of 5 pitchers with multiple Cy Young Awards and multiple no-hitters. Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson held their spots in the top 4 of the college football playoff rankings. Unbeaten Miami moving up 3 spots to number 7. They match up with the Fighting Irish this weekend. Oklahoma remains 5. TCU moves up to 6. Those two match up on Saturday night as well. Meantime, also news from men's college basketball. 3 UCLA players, including LiAngelo Ball, Cody Riley, Jalen Hill, arrested in China on shoplifting charges just days prior to their season-opening game against Georgia Tech. The 3 players remain in custody. On the hardcourt, NBA, Sixers have won 5 straight, even without Joel Embiid. They best the Jazz in Salt Lake City, 104-97.
The Giants moved to 1-7 after getting blown out against the Rams. Is it time for the Giants to move on from Eli Manning? We'll ask John Gruden when he joins Mike and Mike Wednesday morning at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. And Fitz on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Thanks for joining Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80, and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. So at least for tonight, all is calm and collected in Cleveland. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks 124-119, but they're still 5-6 overall, but it's still early in the NBA season despite the skies falling mentality at times with this team. Let's talk about that and a little LeBron James, Michael Jordan comparison that will never stop, but from a different perspective, from Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider. He's here thanks to Shell Pinto Performance Line. Brian, I'm going to start with the piece you wrote in terms of LeBron and the MJ connection. For those who have not seen it, what is the latest connection involving LeBron James and that ghost, that albatross known as Michael Jordan?
Yeah, well, tonight, LeBron tied Jordan in games played. LeBron's only 32, but, Jordan had the college years and then a couple of retirements. So they played the same amount of games. And, considering that their careers have, technically been as long, I thought it was an interesting time to look at what I think is an interesting phenomenon, which is that, LeBron's been in the NBA for 15 years now. And much like when he came into the league, and he worshipped Michael Jordan. I mean, to hear him talk about how he studied his game. I mean, he was amongst millions of kids who did. But, every single night he goes out there with 23 on his chest because he walked in the footsteps of Jordan. He was his idol. Now that LeBron's been around 15 years, played in all these finals, played in over 1,000 games, these guys who are coming in the league now grew up with LeBron. You talk to some of these players like Lauri Markkanen, like Lonzo Ball, who said, hey, listen, I know I played for the Lakers. I know I was raised in L.A., but LeBron was my favorite player. It wasn't Kobe. I mean, this just as LeBron came into the NBA as part of the Jordan generation, and there's guys in the middle of their careers, guys like Kyrie Irving, DeMar DeRozan, who worships Kobe. But just like, Jordan sort of handed the baton off to LeBron, handing the baton off now. And I just thought it was interesting to sort of examine that. I talked to LeBron about it last week, and he said, listen, I grew up wearing Michael Jordan shoes when he could afford them, and to see young guys, to go to AAU tournaments with his son and see young guys wearing his shoes, to come up and play against guys who, can remember when he was a rookie, when they say they're a kid. That has meaning, and that has lasting impact, just like Jordan did for LeBron.
I saw where you said that Michael Jordan and LeBron don't talk a lot, but how does LeBron view MJ now after all the in my opinion, unfair comparisons, because those different eras, it's hard to compare eras, but how does LeBron view Michael Jordan now that he's played in as many games and won titles and is now considered the best player on the planet?
He still aspires to what Jordan is because, one of the things LeBron wants to do when his career is over is become a successful enough businessman to own a team, even if that's not an NBA team, even if that's a Premier League team in England, or if it's, an NHL team or whatever. Jordan, it didn't just show the way for LeBron as a player, but showed the way for LeBron as a businessman. And so I think at times, LeBron will point out that he has tried to craft his own path, that, he really isn't like Mike in a lot of ways. But, and I also think it's important to point out that they're rivals. I mean, Jordan owns a team that is attempting to beat LeBron and has for some time now. And even within Nike, I mean, technically, while they're all on the same team, Jordan wants those kids to buy Jordan shoes, and LeBron wants those kids to buy LeBron shoes. I mean, they're kind of protege and rival, if you will. And I think LeBron always recognizes that. And I think it's not just a simple black and white answer. I want to be Mike or I don't. I think he continues to be guided by him while at the same time, trying to be a unique individual.
Great stuff by Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider, joining Freddie and Fitz in ESPN Radio. The one thing that LeBron has had more than Jordan was that one guy that was his rival. It was Kobe Bryant early, even though they never played in the NBA Finals. And without any question, it's Steph Curry of Golden State now. Michael Jordan never had that one guy that he could look at because it's basically Michael Jordan versus the league. What is it like for LeBron James now, even though he still has many more years before we can throw dirt on his career from being an elite player, to all of a sudden have these guys led by Steph Curry trying to challenge him on that King's Throne for best player in the league?
Ultimately, when it comes down to this discussion, it always comes down to counting, right? Mm-hmm. You're counting championships. And I think LeBron could say, he's never said this, but I think LeBron could say, the Golden State Warriors may be the best team we've seen in the NBA since the Celtics in the 60s. Certainly Jordan's Bulls right there. But as far as overall team, they may be one of the best of all time. And he's got to go climb that mountain. If he actually toppled it once, he toppled a 73-win team. It's not apples to apples. And so I think that, that is LeBron's burden. The other thing is LeBron has now played with some great players, but he never played with a Scottie Pippen. It depends on how much you believe in Kyrie Irving, I guess. But he's played with Wade. He's played with Bosh. He's played with Kyrie, with Love. I mean, he's played with Hall of Famers. But Scottie Pippen is one of the 50 greatest players of all time, playing alongside Jordan. And he had a Hall of Fame coach. So LeBron's path. Not to give him any discount because he's not asking for it, but his path has been more challenging. And at times LeBron has made his path more challenging. What I don't know, guys, is how history is going to view the 7 straight finals, or whether it becomes 8 or whether it ends at 7. That's an incredible accomplishment in an era of high-level free agency and major star movement in the league. To make 7 straight finals is, in a lot of people's minds, I mean, I talked to Steve Kerr about this, one of the great accomplishments in NBA history. But again, in a conversation that's so ruled by how many of those trophies you have, I don't know how history is going to view it. History will not ever view it like Jordan's 6-0, that's for sure. Where will it come down? And that's one thing that we're not going to know for a long time.
I know it's only 11 games into the season, Brian, but how much does LeBron James miss Kyrie Irving, especially Isaiah Thomas on the bench waiting to come back probably around January or February?
They miss Kyrie in so many ways. Certain ways were predictable, certain ways were not predictable. For example, the way the Cavs play now, they have to play a lot closer to the basket because they don't have Kyrie's floor spacing, and it kills them in transition defense. They're terrible at transition defense. One of the reasons is because they're an old team. One of the reasons is because they can't play the same floor spacing that enable them to get back. And also, they're not as good on offense as they were a year ago. They don't put the ball in the basket as much. And if you don't put the ball in the basket, you don't get to get back on defense and set your defense. It's one of the rewards for scoring a basket. The other team has to take it out. And so, I don't think the Cavs realized just how much losing Kyrie was going to affect their defense, even though Kyrie was not a good defensive player for them. So when you look at that trade, it's impossible to evaluate it now because two of the main pieces that the Cavs got haven't been displayed, what the Brooklyn pick becomes and Isaiah. So, I'm not surprised at all that Kyrie is playing great for Boston. I expect him to do so. But we'll have to see what Isaiah looks like and what that pick becomes before we can evaluate it. But I'll tell you right now, watching the Cavs, and they had a quality win tonight. Giannis put up 40 on them, and they withstood that. J.R. Smith had his best game of the season tonight. Love had a great game. LeBron had a great game. And, they're 4-0 against the Bucks, Wizards, and Celtics. So, in a lot of ways, they're still very much in the preseason, especially because they don't have Isaiah. So, we'll see. But, I think the impact of Kyrie's loss has been much deeper than the Cavs were expecting.
What is your world like, and how quickly does your phone ring when it's an 860 area code when LeBron throws out a cryptic tweet or Instagram post?
Yeah, I'm in LA this week, doing all the shows out here, and I'm a little under the weather. And I seriously consider just phoning in sick when that thing came out. And of course, those of us, in the field, okay, we try to find out what it meant, right? So we go through our sources, right? Hey, what's he doing here? What's he doing? And the answer comes back, we don't know. And so it's like, I got to go on SportsCenter and I got to say, I don't know, guys. I wish I could give you an answer, but I don't know. And so, in a lot of ways, right, it's one of the reasons why the NBA is tremendous right now. You guys know, you guys can plan for your shows if you want. But, it's like, when we leave from the jump every day, when I'm doing the jump with Rachel and we talk about the next day's rundown, I go, I don't know why we're going to talk about it right now. There's going to be, 15 or 20 crazy things that happen in the next 12 hours. And it always happens. And what I love about it is it's like a code for NBA fans. They get it. They know he can post a single picture and it can launch 1,000 conversations. And that is an amazing thing that not even Michael Jordan can claim.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Great stuff by Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider. Follow him on Twitter at Windhorst ESPN.
Hold on, LeBron just sent another one.
Hey,
Good luck, Wendy.
So it looked like Wendy's going to be under the weather, working hard once again, playing hurt, joining us on Freddie and Fitz. Wendy, always a pleasure, my man.
Just kidding, Brian. Just kidding.
I don't know if he's kidding.
Guys.
In 24 hours, maybe.
I picked up my phone. I picked up my phone.
Thanks, BW.
All right, take care, guys.
Why do you do that?
I had to.
Oh my!
And he just picked up his phone, right? That just happened.
That is completely
son of did he really?
Well, that's what happened when everything is ruled around you when it comes to LeBron James, because anything that's good, bad, especially salacious or somewhat salacious, or people want to make it salacious, it's going to generate headlines no matter what. Big thanks to Brian Windhorst joining Freddie and Fitz, brought to you by Upside.com. Low prices, great rewards, 6-star service. You deserve a better business trip. Upside.com, Upside.com. Lonzo Ball's dad taking some good advice involving one of his other sons. That story is next on ESPN Radio.
Miami got some respect from the committee this week. They can get a whole lot of respect next week. If Miami takes care of Notre Dame, not only do they start getting respect, now they're very much alive in the Final Four conversation, and that's a team we have to watch out for.
The College Football Playoff. Who's in?
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while the choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Football Sunday on ESPN Radio. The Packers have dropped 3 and 2 2 without Aaron Rodgers. Brett Hundley showed signs of promise Monday night, but now they head to Soldier Field as underdogs for the first time in 9 years when they face the Bears.
Take off the training wheels. Let this kid play. Live in your hopes, not in your fears.
Football Sunday. The Packers and Bears.
We're working our way towards kickoff.
Noon Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Look at those losers. Who would ever do that again?
This is the show for you.
This is the time you're going to say yes. Welcome into another version of Mike. Forget it. It's Golic and Wingo.
Yeah, it is. Was that a little too early?
No.
All right, we're good.
It's Golic and Wingo.
Coming on November 27th.
Helps best when one person talks at once, guys. Thanks, Mike.
It's Golic and Wingo, beginning November 27th, 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
The Fantasy Focus Football Podcast with Matthew Berry, Field Yates, and Stephania Bell. Subscribe on the ESPN app or on Apple Podcasts.
Welcome to Between Two Rexes. Let's just say they were going to do a low-budget, clearly, life story of Matt Hasselbeck, because I'm sure that movie's coming out anytime soon. Who would be the actor?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rex.
Vin Diesel, any other bald guy
like
you can
Woody
think
Harrelson,
of?
maybe?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who would play you?
It's not about me here,
Okay,
Tim.
sorry.
Matt, one of you Hasselbecks. What's the difference?
Sunday NFL Countdown, 10 Eastern on ESPN.
The Bill Barnwell Podcast.
70% for the Saints to win the NFC South. Are you buying that?
That's a little too high. I really like New Orleans. They beat the Panthers straight up in Carolina. But Carolina, to me, is the team, again, with reinforcements. They have jettisoned Kelvin Benjamin. Look, it's a big trade. He's a former first-round pick and the number one receiver, but I'm not sure that he is great.
The Bill Barnwell Podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
Dashing through the snow on a broomstick, not a sleigh. Over Hogwarts Castle we go, flying up and away.
For the first time ever, it's Christmas in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Come to Universal Studios Hollywood starting November 24th and watch Hogwarts Castle light up the night in our all-new holiday spectacle. Visit universalstudioshollywood.com for tickets, including our annual passes, now with low monthly payments. Blackout dates and restrictions apply.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem I can't fight alone: childhood hunger. 17 million kids in America struggle with it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Thanks for joining Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and SiriusXM Channel 80. Subscribe to the podcast in case you missed anything, and if you do, that's why we got it for you. You can do that in the Listen tab of the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, as well as tune in. Don't know if you saw this story involving LiAngelo Ball. He is the younger brother of Lonzo Ball, about to go to UCLA, where they're playing basketball in China, part of a basketball trip, and apparently he was arrested for shoplifting along with other teammates. Now, his dad was going to have a press conference in China, speaking on his son's behalf. And then Bad idea. Somebody got next to him and said, hey, LeVar, their justice and how they deal with things is not the same thing. You go out there and get in touch with your usual LeVar Ball, you're going to make it a lot worse for LiAngelo. According to reports, and he could face up to 10 years in prison.
Hey, so Cody Riley, Jalen Hill, LiAngelo Ball, all UCLA basketball players.
Right.
All arrested in Shanghai.
In Shanghai, yes.
Now, just let that sink in, folks. Arrested in Shanghai on shoplifting charges. Now, first of all, Freddie, what momentary lapse of reason, to quote Pink Floyd,
Attaboy.
do you have to have or to try and steal from a Louis Vuitton store located next to the team's hotel
in Hangzhou,
China?
Yes. Yeah, in Hangzhou, China, yes.
Their version of justice is a wee bit different than ours. So right now, these three young men are not under the protection of the U.S. government. UCLA basketball, when they were scheduled to practice today, they right now are in jail for shoplifting in Shanghai. You talk about just dumb and I mean beyond dumb. Chinese prison, 2 words you don't want associated with your name. And LeVar Ball was going, and Freddie, you and I talked about this earlier today. You know he was going to go all out, right? Like, you know, hey, you better release my son and this, and somebody got to him going, if you want to see your son in the next 10 years, shut up.
Right.
Don't say a word.
Yeah, by the way, a source told ESPN that nearly 20 police officers came into the Hyde Hangzhou about 8 o'clock a.m. local time. They spoke to multiple players from Georgia Tech and UCLA, and according to the source, the players were kept in a room for hours and not allowed to speak to any of the coaches. The source told ESPN, and I quote, "They were not messing around. The kids were scared," end quote. Now, Georgia Tech released a statement saying that 3 of their players were questioned, but it was determined that they were not even going to be a part of the investigation. They didn't do anything wrong. The UCLA players, the 3 of them, including LiAngelo Ball, were seen getting into a police vehicle around 1 p.m. local time. You cannot go over there and think, well, I'm this and I'm that, I'm that. When 20 police officers show up, it got real quickly for UCLA, LiAngelo Ball, and the other 2 players involved. Whether LeVar Ball wants to believe that or not, it is quite real to him. It should be.
We don't know if they are in a Chinese prison. We don't know if they're being detained by police, but we do know they were taken away by police, to be, quite clear. But I know this, Freddie, if that were my son and he was taken away by 20 police officers in China, in Shanghai, my sphincter factor, I'm turning coals into diamonds, Coach. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, you're calling the U.S. consulate, right? I mean, you're doing everything you can. The university is as well.
Yeah, you're calling anybody on that side of the world that can speak English and understand English. That's what you're doing right now.
And forget the coach, right? I mean, you're going. This is now USA, right? Like, hey, I need the consulate. My son has been arrested for allegedly stealing from a Louis Vuitton store. And if the players did actually steal from a Louis Vuitton store in Shanghai, man, you talk about just one of the dumbest things that you can do. 2 places you don't ever want to have your name associated with. Mexican prison, Chinese prison.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
I mean, come on.
I'm trying to find humor in this, but there's nothing. There's nothing humorous about 3 young men who made a complete bad choice. And life is full of choices. You have the option to go one way or the other. You're playing in China. A lot of people love to play Division I basketball in the United States. You get a chance to not only play Division I basketball, but you're playing in a game to kick off your season in a foreign country, in a hallowed country, in a historic country, on somebody else's dime.
In a communist country.
That's a whole nother matter.
I'm just saying, man. It's a whole different ball game. And you're going to try and steal a Louis Vuitton wallet, man purse, whatever it might be. Man, Coach, this got real, and it got real really quickly. And LeVar Ball needs to stay quiet. Don't say a word.
The only way that's going to happen, Ian, if you have duct tape and you put it around his mouth, and it's got to be double strength. That's the only way he's going to keep quiet. That's not him.
LiAngelo Ball, his son, right now, in custody by all accounts, all reports, in China, along with 2 other UCLA players. Let the U.S. government officials in China handle this one.
By the way, LeVar Ball said about if he was worried about his son, he said, and I quote, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. Everybody making it a big deal. It ain't that big of a deal, end quote. So when I hear that statement.
Not that big a deal.
Right. When I hear that statement, that's your way of saying, oh, he just stole something. He's going to be okay. It's a youthful mistake.
20 police officers, right?
20 police officers. It got real quick. Right. Stay tuned. How would the Super Bowl coach handle the aftermath of his team making like they were auditioning for Fight Club? That's next on ESPN Radio.
This is Calais Campbell of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to all the people who serve our country and the armed forces and all the veterans. We appreciate you.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Stupid rubber duck. Oh, I bet this is Mariota's room. Whoa, I get that he went to Oregon, but a pond-themed room seems a little weird. I was just looking for Mariota.
Hey, what's going on out there?
I told you we should have just gone to HeismanHouse.com, but no, we had to go to the house. We could have voted for this year's Heisman winner from the safety of our computers.
This week, tune into the Paul Feinbaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Sometimes the best seats in the house are above it. In college football, that's the Goodyear blimp. And for more than 60 years, we've seen what it takes to be worthy. It takes toughness, dedication, and perseverance. Because seasons aren't measured by wins and losses, but by... Some call it hard work, determination, or grit. We call it blimp-worthy. Goodyear, official sponsor of the College Football Playoff.
Hi, I'm Darla from Cintas.
Oh, thank goodness you're here. We have so much to do. I need fire extinguishers, right?
We'll place them for you and be out for regular inspection.
Great. And what about my new hires?
We'll get them into uniforms and keep them looking sharp.
What about this first aid cabinet?
Fully stocked.
It wasn't this morning.
It is now. And so are the restrooms.
Wow, Cintas really seems to know what we need.
You said it.
Oh, I'm ready!
Learn how Cintas can help you get ready for the workday. Visit Cintas.com.
It's time for some Straight Talk. Green, you love your phone, don't you?
I'm updating my fantasy roster on it as we speak.
But I'm guessing you don't love your pricey wireless plan, what with all the mystery fees and data overages every month.
Oh, you got that right.
What if I told you that you could keep that phone you love, but pay a whole lot less every month?
Well, I'm in.
With Straight Talk Wireless, you can actually keep your same phone, your same number, even your same network, but for a whole lot less than you're paying right now. It's kind of like getting a #1 starting quarterback.
For the price of a backup kicker.
Steal of the draft.
Bring your own phone to Straight Talk Wireless. Unlimited plans start at just $45 a month. With nationwide coverage on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart. Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Guys, come into JCPenney and get ready for the holiday season. Wednesday through Saturday, select Dockers signature khakis are just $36.99. Or get 50% off select Arizona and St. John's Bay apparel. Plus, get $10 off with coupon when you spend $25 or more on select items throughout the store and at jcp.com. Hurry in. These deals can't be beat. JCPenney. Coupon valid 11/8 to 11/12. Offers represent savings on regular or original prices while supplies last. Some exclusions apply. See store at jcp.com for details.
Do you need a car? Been shopping only to be turned down because of bad credit, low credit, no credit, bankruptcy, or divorce? Guess what? Today's your lucky day, because now you can buy a car, truck, or SUV, just about any vehicle. It's true. Bad credit doesn't matter. No credit doesn't matter. Bankruptcy or divorce, it just doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, your job is your ticket to your